is going to be a grand slam home run.
Swing and drive. Belton right. Welcome to the show.
Prospects 40-21 here on the call up. I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen. And we have 2 more episodes now flying through this top 100 update here. And first, before we get into that, before we start with Brady House of the Washington Nationals, real quick, let's talk about Kyle Harrison's debut, which I thought was encouraging in a lot of ways, unique in a lot of ways. He ends up, I would say, I don't know, where would you put it, Jack, in terms of like what your expectations were and what he ended up doing in that start? I thought it was kind of an elevated version of the Kyle Harrison experience as he goes 3 1/3, punches out 5, only walks 1, hits 1 batter, and gives up 2 earned runs and 5 hits.
Yeah, so the 2 earned runs came on 1 swing. It was Bryce Harper with a 2-run homer.
That's going to happen.
Yeah, okay. Welcome to the big leagues. Left on left nuke job from Bryce. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we were a bit skewed because our expectations were a lot lower than maybe some other Giants fans. And I think that other Giants fans with higher expectations might have said, oh, that could have been more of a tightrope act than I was expecting. I was expecting good things. But, we were expecting the tightrope act of all tightrope acts. And, maybe he doesn't even get through the 3rd. But the fact that he pitched into the 4th and threw 65 pitches, I think I left more encouraged than what I was expecting to feel.
100%. I was going to say, I thought he looked pretty poised, had the bases loaded, and again, like facing a lineup. I mean, these are all guys. You got to look at the human aspect. This lineup is loaded with guys that Kyle Harrison grew up watching, and not only are you in a jam, you're in a jam against a guy you grew up watching. You're in a jam.
And I know that's a wild card race.
Yeah, in a wild card. And I know you could say that about a lot of guys, but usually it's an Oakland A's starter. Like Kyle Muller is getting his debut against the Yankees at home. Sure. And I know that's not who he debuted against, but sure. Okay. I get it. But there's something about I'm looking, Nick Castellanos in the eyes with the bases loaded in a wild card race in a big game here on the road. And I thought that Harrison was incredibly poised. I think you could see that's a big reason why they called him up. He did throw 1 changeup in there, unless there was another one that I missed. And it was actually a good changeup. So if that is there, man, that changes a lot. What we saw is that fastball is going to play. And I mean, the one thing that stood out to me above all is that fastball got guys looking almost as much as it got guys swinging, maybe more. And it just shows you how much life and jump and hard, how hard it is to pick it up out of that release point. I mean, you got Bohm just watching it go middle inside and just strike 3. You had Castellanos just watching one go right through, and you could tell that it was a unique fastball. Would they adjust, 3rd time through the lineup? Maybe, and that's why he got cut off at 3 1/3. The only other thing that was really weird to me is that lefties, I think, were 5 for 5 off of him, and righties were 0 for whatever, which is a bizarre split. And I think also is a unique aspect of maybe he needs that freaking slider that he scrapped and the sweeper that he scrapped for a harder slider that he's not trusting, because lefties were fighting for their lives last year against his sweeper.
Yeah, it was pretty much fastball only against lefties, I assume, right? Or it's, fastball.
He mixed in the slider, and I think that was the pitch that Bryce Harper hit out.
Yeah, but it's more of a cutter than it is a slider. So you're seeing 2 different iterations of a fastball right now, and Harper can, sit on that in the low to mid 90s. And, any big leaguer, if you say, okay, you're going to get some sort of pitch in the low to mid 90s, they're going to be able to do something with that. Yeah. So how do you deviate? And I think the answer in lefty is with that sweeper. And lefty righty, it's that changeup. So I've got questions on whether he can get through an entire second time through or even pitch into the 3rd time through. But yesterday, decent enough. Real quick, this guy does have rookie status. He wasn't a prospect by any stretch. Kyle Harrison went 3 1/3. Ryan Walker got him through the fifth. Ryan Walker has been swingman extraordinaire for San Francisco. And again, this guy, not a prospect, 27-year-old rookie, but he's sporting a 2.15 in like 46 innings. Ryan Walker.
Delivery.
Yeah, funky delivery, and it's been good, man. Ryan Walker, he's not a starter, but this guy's a good rookie, and I feel like a podcast called The Call Up should talk about that.
Yeah, I think he just had a kid too, so congratulations to him. I think that there's some version of a Harrison Walker, maybe Harrison and one other guy piggyback, where it's just uncomfortable at bats. You got a left-handed release coming from this way to the side over here. And then you got a right-handed release coming from way to the side over here. And I think that could be a really good piggyback because Harrison's probably going to be a 4 or 5 or dive. And if you do that, I think you're going to set him up for a decent amount of success here. And then you piggyback Walker, who's been awesome. There you go. You're through 6. Yeah. Now you can hand it off to the bullpen. So I think this is an interesting spot, and I think Harrison can help them. And I agree. I think Walker, has been a really nice little wrinkle for this Giants team.
Yeah.
Let's jump into it. Let's start with Brady House, who, I'm gonna wear this one, and this is I want to use like the corny example, but in the baseball version, you never know what somebody's going through, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. And Brady House, I watched last year, and I just didn't like the swing. I thought it was a little bit slow. There was too many ground balls, and turns out Brady House was hurt, like quite hurt, and playing through multiple injuries. And you never know what somebody's going through. It's interesting because that put me off of a 19-year-old. Mm-hmm. And it's again, like you learn through the way that you kind of assess a player and then maybe go wrong about it. And I think this was a really cool learning opportunity for myself because it was like, he's young. I saw a big kid in an organization that does not touch hitters. And I'm like, oh man, like where's this guy going to go? His swing's far off and it's not going to get there. And then he gets healthy. I catch him on the backfields before this year and it looks a lot better. And then I start watching as the year goes on and it looks better and better and better. The EVs are up. The bat to ball is way better than anybody thought it would be. And all of a sudden, he looks like one of the top 50 prospects in the game.
Yeah, well, it was crazy. We were at the Futures game, and right after batting practice, you walked up and you said, I think Brady House might be the number 2 prospect in baseball. And I said, let's cool it a little bit. Let's make sure we don't do something that drastic. But no, man, he kind of stole the show during BP there. He hit some upper deck shots, but I think people saw a healthy Brady House at that point. And you've been watching him from the backfield throughout the entirety of this year. And he's already climbed to Double-A at this point. And Brady House, 36 games in Low A, 16 in High A, 21 with Double-A Harrisburg. He's slashing 311, 373, 481. That's a mid-800s OPS. At 853, he's swiping enough bags. The thing that jumps out to me, you said the swing is a little slow. He's not striking out as much. Like, that's very helpful for a guy that has 300 capabilities, and he's a big kid, and he's got 65 raw power. If you're not striking out that much, I really have faith in you developing as a hitter.
No, he looks quick. Honestly, now the bat speed's been impressive, and it's low effort. Like, he starts – it's a timing mechanism that I also generally would hate. It's like a bat waggle. And he just starts with this like really small waggle, and there's not much load from there. It's just waggle and go. And honestly, it's worked for him. He's so strong that he can kind of just swing from his launch position can pretty much be his stance. He swings and he puts up big time EVs, man. It gives you a lot of contact because he's consistently on time. That's the one side of it is he's already in his slot. 107 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity is great. The contact rates are average. Chase rate's high, and that's kind of going to come with the territory. Hopefully he can cut that down. He just turned 20 years old, and he's already in double, as you mentioned. But I want to see it translate into more game power. That's the one thing, is he's got 9 home runs so far this season. The ground ball rate's a little elevated. It's a lot of really hard line drives. I want to see this guy lift because, as you mentioned, like BP was insane. Like, he put on an absolute show. It was him and Yanquiel Fernandez. Like, that's the kind of power we're talking about here. Yet he doesn't totally allow himself to get into it in games with his moves because it's so, two-legged and simple where it's just hands here, throw hands. Shows you how strong he is at 6'3", 215, 220. But I need a little bit more leverage in that swing because you're going to be playing third base. You're not going to hit 300 at the highest level. You need to hit for power. You need to walk a little bit. So it's an unfinished profile, but really encouraging season so far and a lot of really good things to see. I think a max of 113, like the power is there. Just lift the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
Number 39, guy that's basically a big leaguer that we rank. But I think there's a fun wrinkle in this that we can talk about. Jordan Westberg, have him listed as a shortstop with the Orioles, but he's really been playing second and third. He's capable at shortstop. I think if he gets traded, he'd get a look at shortstop. I have bats left. I need to update that. He bats right. I love this guy ever since I saw him on the Cape. And, he's just a gamer. And it's 50s to 55s across the board. He's actually a plus runner, and I think that was the most underrated aspect of his game because it didn't translate into stolen bases. But it's average hit, above average power that he gets into. It's plus speed, and it's above average defense. And, we're seeing this guy help the best team in the American League right now. And I think it says a lot that he's up there and Joey Ortiz is not, because I think in batted ball data, Ortiz is better. Glove, Ortiz is better. But when you look at the ability to grind out at bats, the ability to contribute at the big league level right now, Westberg is a more complete product, and that's what we're seeing. So long-term, Ortiz may wind up being the better player if he gets the opportunity, but also Westberg is a year and change younger and is a higher floor bat. So it's an interesting comparison here. And the question I got on The Verge as I just went on, that Orioles podcast was, who would you stick with the rest of the way, like going into next year, if you had to move one? And it's a really tough question.
It is a tough question. You say grind out at bats. What's impressive is he's doing that, and he's developed that identity without walking much at all. 7 walks and 149 plate appearances. So he's not walking, but he's still working deep and he just seems like a little bit more of an advanced hitter, while Joey Ortiz seems like more of a toolsy hitter. Yeah. And I think at this point, when they're trying to go win a World Series, when they're ahead of schedule, I think you go with the advanced hitter. Now, if they were in a different situation and they were a 500 team and they were on the outside looking into the wild card situation, I'd probably side with giving Ortiz a shot on an everyday basis. But based on the situation, I think Westberg is the right guy to be playing for them.
Yeah, I mean, to only be striking out 23% of the time, mind you, that was his minor league career average. And actually, I think his minor league career average was higher than that. Yeah. So it just kind of shows you how adjustable he is and how he's able to kind of just figure it out at each stop. I mean, you look at what he's done in 2021 in AA, it was a 104 WRC plus. Then he starts over again there in 2022, 47 games, 122 WRC plus. They bump him up to AAA, 129 WRC plus. Then in AAA this year, 129 WRC plus. They bring him up to the big leagues, and so far this year, he has a 93 WRC plus, but he's doing that while playing great defense. And again, he really sees a lot of pitches in his at-bats. He's a guy that's just going to make you work, and he doesn't give them away. If he could walk, I think that'd make a huge difference, right? Because we're looking at a guy that's – and it's a tough ballpark for a young righty who does like to pull a little bit. But you'll get a 410 slug, 302 on base. If he was getting on base, he's hitting 266. If he was getting on base at a 320, 330 clip, that WRC plus is up in the 105, 110 range. And we're talking about, a rookie that's really, really, really performing. But I think he's been awesome so far. And I think I think you hit the nail on the head. He can help them more right now. But in terms of who might be the better WAR guy in a full season, I think it's Ortiz if you can give him enough time at shortstop, and hopefully he gets an opportunity either there or somewhere else soon.
Yeah.
Number 38. I know this is a guy that you saw a little bit of before he got called up, and he has been awesome so far for the Milwaukee Brewers. Sal Frelick, outfielder, big leagues with Milwaukee. I mean, he's been talk about grinding at bats. This is a different level of grinding at bats. This guy's been everything that you could have wanted and imagined out of him at the big league level so far. 26 games, a 123 WRC plus, walking a ton, which is insane, like 18% walk rate, doesn't strike out, and he's even snuck out 3 homers. He's an elite runner. He's a good defender. It's elite bat to ball. This dude rocks. Like, he's just an awesome and fun player, and a big reason why Milwaukee has had this second life here in the second half.
Yeah, so 1 punch out in his last 5 games. I mean, that always plays. 18 walks, 14 punch outs, and 98 big league plate appearances. We knew that he wasn't going to punch out. Did we think that he was going to walk like this? No, we did not think that he was going to walk like this. Did we think that he would have 3 homers in his first 26 games? No, probably not. We were thinking 1. Like, it's not Quan level lack of power, but it's like, oh, you're going to poke 1 out every 30 games. Like, not really the case. And at AmFam, that plays up. He's an incredible defender in right field. He's a center fielder. He's a really good center fielder that they've moved to a corner, because Weimer is proving to be a really good center fielder. And, oh, by the way, that Chorio guy who we're talking about next episode, obviously, is going to be a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. So Frelick, like, he was kind of forced into, hey, buddy, if you want to play every day, you got to play right field. And he's a really good right fielder.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's not your right field profile, but, like, who cares on this team? Because they just need guys that can hit above, the league average, and he's hitting above the league average. What's fun about them is you talk about, the defensive ability. Yelich could probably play center field if you wanted him to. And then you've got Garrett Mitchell, who can play a good center field, who's probably going to be back sometime relatively soon. But where does Mitchell fit in? You're going to take
wonder how they
out
do
there?
this. Yeah, I have no idea how they do this.
I mean, you saw the Ken Rosenthal piece. They were talking about iterations of a trade with the Mets, reportedly, for Pete Alonso, which would have been so fun, by the way. If the Brewers got Pete Alonso, first of all, he'd hit 55 home runs. Second of all, I'd be all the way in. And I think Frelick was floated in those conversations, as was Jefferson Caro and, Mizorowski and whatever it may be. And, oh my gosh, I would do that in 2 seconds if I'm the Brewers, because that's everything they need. But, I don't think they're complaining right now. They're in a good spot, and Frelick's going to be a table setter for them for a long time. And you can start to see the core coming together. I think they move one of these outfielders. I don't think it's going to be Weimer, because he's turned out to be this elite center fielder that is still just scraping the surface of what he can be offensively. I think Garrett Mitchell may end up being that expendable guy, and it'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason. But Frelick is really, really kind of, I think, solidified himself in this organization too with his performance.
Yeah, but my question is, do you move Mitchell for I'm trying to think of like a second tier or third tier.
I think it's Mitchell is instead of another prospect, and you attach him with a prospect.
But I'm thinking if the difference between Pete Alonso and not Pete Alonso, like a guy a step below that's available in the trade market, is Sal Frelick or Mitchell, like, you might just suck it up and move Frelick for Pete Alonso.
Well,
it'll be interesting.
What I'll say is Frelick's value will never be higher than, because of the way he's playing right now.
Exactly.
And with a lot of this type of player starting to become more valuable again in Major League Baseball, which I love to see.
Yep.
37, another big leaguer. This is big leaguer day. Emmett Sheehan, a guy that, I think people have very much overstated his struggles at the big league level with the Dodgers. And I think this is a guy that ultimately is going to be as good as any of the pitching prospects really in this range that we're going to talk about. And then behind him, he's been good when he's in triple. He got to the big leagues. It's been rough at times, and it's really about the command for me. He checks a lot of the boxes that I love in the, high carry, low release, fastball type guys, but he has better secondaries than all those guys. The challenge is he doesn't command those secondaries as well. 66% strike rate on a fastball that he was getting in zone whiff of at around 28%. That's including his big league stint. And then the cutter, the changeup, it's mostly cutter. Changeup will sprinkle in a slider, which is really the cutter that he manipulates to be a bit bigger. But the cutter and the changeup are better than the Brian Woos and the Bryce Millers of the world. And I even think the Joe Ryans, until he really found that splitter, The problem is he's only landed the cutter and the changeup for a strike this year at about a 58% clip. And in the big leagues, it was even lower than that. So it was a heavy fastball dependency. And if you're not locating the fastball the way the aforementioned pitchers do, you're in trouble. So if Sheehan can find that feel for the secondaries a little bit more, I think it's game over, because it's one of the lowest release points you're going to find. I think it is like the lowest release point you're going to find from a 6'5" righty, and it takes off from there. And I think that fastball has a chance to be an elite pitch with secondaries that are damn good too.
Yeah. So last 5 starts for Sheehan at the major league level: 3 2/3, 5 earned, 4 Ks, 4 walks. 5 innings, 4 earned, 2 Ks, 3 walks. 3 2/3, 8 hits, 8 runs, 4 Ks, 5 walks. But then 5 shutout innings, 2 hits, 5 punchouts, 1 walk. And then 4 innings, 2 hits. Only 2 hits were solo homers, 3 Ks, and a walk. So it's fascinating. Like, yes, 2 of his last 2 were the most encouraging in that 5-start stretch. Maybe the most encouraging of his career, aside from his debut when he went 5 no-hit or something. Yeah. Like Sheehan, I'm a little worried about the rest of this year. Like, if they do call on him to make starts in September, I don't know what those look like. But this offseason will be big for shoring up the off speed and his ability to land those consistently.
And the Dodgers are as big as anyone with, the lab, and
he's going to come back next year and be awesome. We know that already.
I have no doubt about that. Because like with Gavin Stone, it was like, let's try to develop a third pitch here. With Pepio, it was like, let's get this guy to throw strikes, period. Who, by the way,
looked great, by the way.
With the performance and that piggyback role against the Marlins, I think that takes some of the pressure off of Sheehan as well. Yes. He looked awesome. But, there was all of these different variables. With Sheehan, you don't need to change anything. You just need to, tweak whatever it is that's holding him back from, being able to consistently spot that secondary stuff for strikes. The secondary stuff's unbelievable. And again, that fastball release point is crazy. And if you look at the last, you mentioned the 1, 2, 3, 4 appearances, 2 in the big leagues, 2 in AAA, he's not giving up more than 2 hits in any of those outings. So it's really not about the contact. It's about 1, the walks, and then 2, is he going to leave a fastball or a cutter just right over the middle? And I have a lot of confidence that he's going to get himself right in that regard. Speaking of the PCL, by the way, too, before we get into the next player, I mean, did we call it, or did we call it with Hunter Goodman? He's already got 32 pumps. He's got 7 pumps, Rocky system. 7 pumps in 12 games since going to AAA Albuquerque. It's a joke, having that guy out there. I think if you give him a full season, and I know he's not on the top 100 list, probably a guy that might end up being in the end of the season update just because of the power. If you gave him a full season in Albuquerque, I think he hits like 45.
Do you know the average OPS in the PCL? I've got the average numbers here. I've got average ERA. I've got average OPS, all that.
827.
829 OPS.
Woo!
Average ERA. What do you think the ERA is?
4.74.
5.83.
Okay, that wasn't close.
In the PCL, the average ERA is a 5.83. The best team ERA in the Pacific Coast League is Round Rock with a 4.59. 2 teams have a sub-5 ERA out of the 10.
Yeah, that's insane.
5 have an ERA over 6. It's incredible.
That's incredible. Do you know that your name still says Jacob Mizorowski on the thing?
I do know. Yes.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's the bit.
That's hilarious. The absolute dog, Jacob Mizorowski. But we're gonna get to 36, and that's Carson Williams, shortstop, Tampa Bay Rays, who it looks like maybe on a little bit more of a fast track. I don't know what the deal is with Carson Williams, because they brought him up to triple for a few games and then just sent him right back to high A. So I guess it was more of just, hey, dude, we're going to need you to plug and play here. Fucking weird. It's a first-round pick. Why are you treating him like an org guy and sending him to trips for like 4 games and then sending him back to high A? I understand the domino effect of the Wander Franco situation, but why'd they do that, Jack? Why'd he go?
Sorry. Domino effects are like fine for guys that are not top 100 prospects in baseball. A domino effect and a ripple effect should never affect the guys that are top 10 prospects in your organization. I have no idea why it affected that.
Yeah, like, I mean, how far is Bowling Green from Durham?
It's probably a flight, I think. It's like Southern Kentucky versus, I don't know.
Why the hell are we flying Carson Williams for a 4-game set, against Gwinnett, and then sending him back to high A? I mean, the Rays know what they're doing, and like I try not to, I don't want to, and we'll get into Carson Williams, the player, in a second here. I just thought that was bizarro. Like, what do we like? Go send someone else up there. Who cares? Put Austin Shenton at shortstop for a day. I don't give a shit. Lose the game at Gwinnett. Who cares? Like, why are we org guy treating Carson Williams? I thought that was bizarre. Maybe there's more to the story there, though.
Yeah, he was great, though, in those 4 games. So 1 for 13 with 6 Ks. He was awesome. Certainly ready.
What are we doing? But anyways, I love Carson Williams. He is an awesome defender. And if they wanted to justify throwing him up there, we talked about it. We're like, all right, like, let's see what happens. But, we knew the glove was ready. We knew that there's power. And that's the thing that's really how I've kind of just fallen in love with Carson Williams, the prospect. Yes, there is a lot of swing and miss concern when you look at the punch outs, but the contact rates are average. I'm at 80% zone contact. On fastballs, he rarely whiffs. It's the trouble for him right now is breaking balls. And he's a very vertical hitter. And he's a guy that I think just almost pathwise just ends up swinging over a lot of them, gets on that front foot and kind of gets over them sometimes. But he demolishes heaters. He's extremely patient. It's about 22% chase rate, 90th percentile exit velocity of 107. And this guy that I think if he can get his lower half more involved, has even more power in the tank. That's why I could see almost plus power potential. Elite defender at shortstop. I think he's going to be a plus defender there for a long time. Gets into his game power consistently because he hits the ball in the air. There's so much to like here. Really, the one thing for me at this point is, can he hit the breaking ball? That's a big if, but he just turned 20. It's his age 19 season. I think he's got a lot of time to figure that out, and at least his swing decisions on breaking balls are good.
I'm going to comp. I'm sorry. I'm just going to do it. Willie Adames with more speed. Adames is a high 20% K rate guy, but he's 25 to 30 homers. And I think that's what Carson Williams can do. He's got 25 to 30 homer upside. He strikes out a ton, but he's got the stolen base element that Adames really doesn't have. And Adames is a good defender. No, Adames was a Tiger, and then he was a Ray, and now he's a Brewer, and he's, found a home, and it seems like he is an extension candidate in Milwaukee. So I think the profile is very Adames adjacent.
You know what? I kind of like that. I'm with that. I'm with an Adames with more speed profile. Cool. And people thought Adames was going to hit more, and he just hasn't. And so, like, he is what he's
still productive. He's still a very valuable player.
Yeah, a very valuable player. I mean, you're getting 20 to 30 pumps with defense at shortstop. Like, yeah, I mean, the one thing that I do think Williams can do more is, maybe he doesn't hit 262. Maybe he hits 240, which is kind of what Adames has been the last couple of years. He's going to walk more, I think. We'll see at the upper levels, but he's a very patient hitter. So that's something that can help elevate Williams' profile a little bit more too. But I mean, I think Adames is still, it's been a down year for him. Extremely valuable player, as you said, a 106 career WRC plus. He's already accumulated almost 16 WAR, and he's not even 28 yet. I mean, that's a damn good player.
Yeah.
Get to number 35, a guy who just got optioned back down to AAA. And honestly, I think nothing of it because I thought he was not even big league ready when they brought him up. Tyler Soderstrom, catcher / first baseman with the Oakland A's. Soderstrom wasn't ready, man. Like, it just was that simple. And I picked Soderstrom to be my hitter of the year this year. Told you I was between him and Colt Keith, and I went with Soderstrom in the PCL. To just be the minor league hitter of the year. And he's had a good year, but the approach has really affected him overall. And I think that's been the big thing with Soderstrom is he is so aggressive at the plate. 21 home runs in 70 games is great. 260, that'll play as well with his kind of power. But a 7% walk rate when you're a middle of the order masher, that's not going to play. And that's why I was worried when he got called up to the big leagues. I'm like, what is he supposed to do? We're talking about a guy that's relying on the long ball right now, that is too aggressive with running a chase rate, well over 30%. And we want that guy to go to the big leagues and succeed, mind you, while also still learning how to catch. And I don't know why they're still running him out there as a catcher a decent amount of the time. He split time between first and catcher there. I don't know if the Oakland A's know what they're doing with Soderstrom at this point, and I think they're trying to figure that out. But what I will say is he should have played this entire year in AAA, worked on the approach, and cut that chase rate down. Because once he does that, I think he's in really good shape. He doesn't expand the zone a ton. He doesn't swing and miss a ton. He expands the zone too much. And I think if he can rein in that aggressive approach, you could have an average or above average hitter here. But man, he's just way too aggressive.
He is. I would say just make him a first baseman full time because you got Shea, but also Noda looks like the first baseman moving forward for Oakland. So I don't know. It's hard to look at the 35th best prospect in baseball as a tweener. It's, hey, where's he going to play? But I think that, it's fine if he's kind of bouncing back and forth. So I'm not really worried about the positional thing. I'm with you. It didn't feel like he was ready to rock at the major league level, and he got exposed. And I always have a little bit of concern with those guys, in terms of headspace. He went up and he failed. I think he could call that a big league failure, right? It was 24, 25 games, and he was OPSing under 500. Obviously, we don't place any stock in it. I wonder how much stock Tyler Soderstrom places in that, because these guys are really competitive. And I'm sure a sub 500 OPS weighs on a guy like that, especially when he feels like he may never go down again if it's a non-rehab assignment situation. But here he is getting options. So I'm just curious what that did for the mental, and that's entirely out of his control.
Yeah, and that's I do wonder. And the flip side of it, the devil's advocate would be, okay, he goes up there and it's this rude awakening of okay, I can't get away with these swing decisions
for sure.
And maybe now he goes back and really hones in on the swing decisions, because when you're in AAA and you're launching 21 homers in 70 games and you're still hitting 260. You say, oh, yeah, dude, you got to stop expanding the zone. Yeah. I got 21 pumps, man. I'm hitting balls 114 miles an hour. It's kind of hard for that to resonate. So maybe on the other side, there's a good stifle of confidence to a line. And maybe that's what that could be here for him. I'll say this, swing-wise, it's one of my favorite swings in the minor leagues. It's one of the more big league swings. That's why I think it's just get that approach right. Continue to work on the pitch recognition, and he'll get there. And honestly, looking at some of the advanced catching metrics, he wasn't a disaster. So if he cannot be a disaster behind the dish, you split time between catcher and first base, that definitely elevates the profile. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
We get to 34. This is just big leaguer episode. Another guy who just got sent back down to the minor leagues. Who also, I just talked about this on The Verge. Not really worried about Colton Kuser long-term, outfielder, Baltimore Orioles. Talk about a guy that was just thrown into, hey, we've got a couple guys banged up, including Cedric Mullins. We're going to need you to play some center. We're going to need you to play some left for the best team in the American League. Okay. He didn't hit very well. Yeah. I thought he defended pretty decently. I didn't think he looked blatantly overmatched. Honestly, when I saw the numbers, I was like, whoa, that is way worse than what I thought I was looking at.
Yeah.
Maybe hit 115. But I don't know. I'm just not that worried about him. This was a dude that coming into this year had a lot of things to work on. Left on left was a struggle for him. Breaking balls at times were a struggle for him. And he improved both of those things. I mean, he matched to a 900 OPS left on left this year after being a disaster left on left. Before that, he's hitting breaking balls much better this year. I think that's still something he needs to improve upon, though. And his swing decisions are really good. I mean, he's a sub 20% chase rate guy. If I could pinpoint one thing, though, it is still the breaking balls, and I think that was what got exposed at the big league level.
If you want to know how different AAA baseball is from the major leagues, look no further than Colton Kuser's statistics in Norfolk and in Baltimore. Like, honestly, you think, oh, you're a step away? That is a leap
a big step
on the moon. It's a massive leap. It's one giant leap for mankind for Colton Kuser here. Like, I mean, going from a 1017 OPS in 62 games to a 433 OPS when he was walking a lot.
Yeah, he was walking.
A 330 hitter in AAA hit a $115 in 77 plate appearances.
And you talk about the confidence too, right? Like, oh, this guy must be beat up. They send him back to AAA. 6 games, 348, 464, 739.
So you know what happens? Like, you always see that a guy that isn't big league ready goes up, struggles with the big leagues. Guess what? He's still seeing big league pitching. So he comes down here. He's like, wait, this shit is easy. And then he just hammers that. So that's how quadruple A guys become a thing. And Kuser is so much more than a quadruple A guy.
100%.
That wasn't saying Kuser's that, but like Kuser, while he might not have been entirely ready, he's one of the best hitters in AAA right now. So I think next year is his year to really, get his full glimpse at the major league level.
It's the breaking balls. It's the breaking balls. And because the AAA breaking balls compared to the big league breaking balls, that might be one of the biggest differences you have.
They're nothing, bro.
It's the biggest difference you have. So I think that's something you can work on all year. We have pitching machines nowadays that can crank up like slider machines that are disgusting, and they'll expose your inefficiencies in your path. And I have a lot of confidence that Kuser, you don't want to make some major tweaks right now when you're demolished. And that's the problem too, where you become this tweener in AAA in the big leagues. I'm demolishing AAA pitching, which is going to get me back to the big leagues. Why would I change something that could get me in a little bit of a rough patch in AAA? But if you don't change something, when you get to the big leagues, you're going to run into the same problems again. And that's why you should have empathy for these guys, because their job is damn hard. Yes. But I know Kuser's going to get there. I really do. Yeah. We get to number 33, and this is not a big leaguer. And I got not as much flack as I thought. I got more flack for ranking freaking Jason Dominguez high, which is so ironic to me, because Marcela Meyer checks in at 33. And Marcela Meyer has struggled in AA this year, while Jason Dominguez struggled in AA this year, then went nuclear. And Dominguez is the same age as Meyer. And Dominguez also we're going to do a whole episode on promotions as well. I might even rip a solo episode on promotions at some point, and then we finish this top 100 because there's so many promotions. But Meyer's really struggled in AA, like really, really struggled. And I just think the psychology of it is always funny, and it just shows you prospect fatigue 101 here. But we're not here to compare those two. We're here to talk about Marcela Meyer. We can talk about the psychology of prospect fatigue another time. Meyer was great in high A. The Red Sox worked on some things to improve the bat speed, and I think that's exactly what he emerged this year doing, was showing more bat speed. And through 35 high A games, 7 pumps, 290, 366, 524. Where I really like Meyer too is the glove. The glove is really good at shortstop, silky smooth, and I think he's going to be a good defender there for a long time. The problem is he is really struggling in AA. And from what I've seen, he's just kind of getting blown up. He's getting blown up by fastballs, and I think he's in a spot where he really needs to overhaul the swing. It's one of those moves where the barrel tip is so extreme that to get it back down and flat to where it needs to be, I think the ball just gets on him too quickly. And it's one of those moves, man, where it's like, if you're not like Javi, and Javi Baez stinks, but if you're not like one of these guys with elite bat speed, like we were just working on your bat speed, and now you're going to start from flat barrel to all the way jacked up to have to get it all the way back down. And I think we're really seeing him struggle with that against more advanced pitching.
I could be off here, but like in terms of bat path, you mentioned sweet left-handed swing. The sweetest left-handed swing of all time, maybe the sweetest swing of all time is Griffey. And Griffey had that bat path that was tip and then it was kind of glide through the zone, right? And it was a little loopy, but if Griffey was seeing elevated 99, I don't think that swing looks like that.
No,
yeah.
And I was gonna say the thing with him is like he's just quicker. Like again, if he's one of the quickest guys of all time. So there's guys that can get away with that if you're one of the quickest guys of all time. And also Griffey stayed here and then got here. For Meyer, it's like down, up, and then he's got to get it back down. And it's just, you want to hear the numbers against fastballs, man?
Yeah.
Last 30 games against fastballs. Even though the most struggling prospects demolish fastballs. Last 30 games against heaters. 171, 255, 366. Like that's just not going to fly.
So, you know, when you were in the backyard just playing pickup basketball and you tried to do the AI crossover or like the Sham God, you do it in slow motion. And I think that's the comp that I was making there. You've got these sweet swings. Like, it's the slow mode version because you don't have the ability that world-class athlete did. And Meyer has a ton of ability, but a split second slower than one of the sweeter left-handed swings of all time. Like, I'm thinking about Bellinger too. Bellinger lost some of that quick freak type twitch where that long swing and that crazy bat path got super exposed. And I think that's kind of where Meyer's at right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's something that he'll shore up. He will. I really think he will. But the problem is some of this length from launch to contact is resulting in him needing to cheat more too. And now as he's cheating more, he's expanding more.
And that makes breaking balls harder. Yeah.
Yep. He's got to make swing decisions earlier. And now making swing decisions earlier, he's chasing at a 34% clip. And if you go, from AA onward, he's chasing at a 37% clip. So it's just too high. What I will say that's encouraging is he did add bat speed. He did add strength going into this year. And he's putting up a 90th percentile 105. The power's to all fields. But for me, it's like he's either catching it deep and he's just got the ability to drive it the other way with loft because there is loft in his swing, or he's cheating and catching it out front and crushing one pull side. If you look at the spray charts, it's pretty wild, man. It's like either straight down the line or deep out that way. And there's not a lot of center field. And to me, that's a guy that's lacking some bat speed because it's either I got the head out or I just caught it before the catcher's mitt. And that's a hard way to operate. That's a really hard way to operate. So if he can clean that up, though, I do think he can still be that top 15 in prospect in baseball that everybody has him at. But there's some swing issues right now. And you can talk about the BABIP and all that. I don't care about BABIP when you're rolling over to third base or rolling over to first base, excuse me. And like, that's what he's been doing or popping up. Like it's been a lot of weak contact in between.
Yeah.
32 big leaguer. This is the big league episode, man. Curtis Mead. He's settling in a little bit at the big league level. I've really liked what I've seen from Curtis Mead over the last few games. And you know what I love about, it's a poor preface of the one silver lining of this terrible Rays situation overall with guys getting hurt and and everything happening is that Curtis Mead's going to get his fair shot. Mm-hmm. Like he's going to get his fair shot. He really struggled out of the gate. And I do wonder if a team that's really trying to grab a pennant, they see him struggle and say, all right, send you back down. Like, you're 22 years old. Like we'll give somebody else a shot. No, like Mead's getting opportunities here. And over his last handful of games, he's been a lot better. He's been much more like that Curtis Mead that I saw as a top 30 prospect in baseball. He dropped to 32 here, but last 5 games, he's picked up 7 hits. He's walked 4 times. He's only punched out 5 times. Yes, that's against the it's a bunch of different teams. Guardians, Giants, Angels, Rockies. He's not playing every day. They're kind of putting him in situations to succeed. And I think he's serving a good role for them. But This is a dude that I think got unfairly docked, Jack, when he got hurt because he was not playing well before the injury, then comes back and misses a lot of time. And I think at that point, people like really, really docked him. Then he comes back off the injury and goes absolutely nuclear. And it's like, that's who we always knew he was. Where are you at on Curtis Mead at this point? Given that this would, relatively speaking, I have air quotes up, be a disappointing year for him. If you asked some people that weren't watching super closely.
Yeah, so I'd say he's probably somewhere between the pre-debut extension candidate that Jeff Passan tweeted about before the season started and a cast-off and a trade candidate. I think this guy looks like he factors into the future of the Tampa Bay Rays in some form or fashion. Is it at a corner? I don't know. Yandy Diaz looks like the first baseman of the future. Isaac Paredes looks like the third baseman of the future. Is Mead a DH? Do you get Paredes off his feet and let him DH, or do you have him play second base and, you have Lau DH? Like, I think he fits into the jigsaw puzzle that will be the Tampa Bay Rays infield. And I think if you had to keep one still at this point, I know Aranda has been hitting the ball really well in AAA so far this year, but I think if you had to move Mead or Aranda or Basabe, it's like, okay, keep one of Aranda, Mead, Basabe, Xavier Isaac. I know you love Xavier Isaac.
I'm keeping Mead.
I'm keeping Mead.
100% I'm keeping Mead. I think our rankings reflect that, I love that you brought that up because again, these rankings, the way that we try to like the methodology is supposed to be that you will not trade 32 for 31.
Yes.
Like that is the way it should be. And in this case, we're not trading any of those guys that you mentioned that are ranked behind. By the way, Basabe, first career home run, grand slam. People sleep on the power. I get it because he puts the ball on the ground 55% of the time, but he's got juice. Mead has big time juice too. He's got to get into it a little bit more as well. The 24 games, by the way, prior to his call up after the injury, that little sandwich time in AAA, 355, 460, 538 slash line. What I love about this guy is he doesn't need to hit homers to slug. 1 home run, but he had 2 triples and 10 doubles in that span. He's the kind of guy that I think could lead the league in doubles. If I could give an offensive like dream comp, Jack, I'm thinking like Castellanos type, where it's like when he runs into one, you're like, oh, there's the monster power. But at the end of the year, like if he's not playing in Great American Ballpark, it's probably not going to be 35, 40 home runs. It's going to be 20, 25, maybe 30 on a good year. And I think that's kind of what you see. Where he fits defensively, we'll have to wait and find out. But I'm a big Curtis Mead fan, and I think you could have justified having him a little bit higher.
Yep.
31, another guy whose like narrative has just been funny to watch this year. Emmanuel Rodriguez. I've been doing some fun like data queries where I can get like charts of, basically I've been wanting to just kind of put it all in a visible lens of like, I love 90th percentile exit velocity. I love zone contact. Who are the guys that are, super proficient in one, not as proficient in the other, or kind of proficient in one and kind of proficient in the other? And how far on one side of the graph can we get? And Emmanuel was definitely an outlier in a good way because he hits the living crap out of the ball, and his contact rates, while they're not great, they're average. And there's not a lot of guys with average contact rates and at 108 90th percentile exit velocity, right? And that's what this Twins prospect has. The funny thing is, you remember when we were talking about what the hell is wrong with Emmanuel Rodriguez through the first 30 games where he was hitting 173, 333, 373? He was chasing at an 11% clip. He was only swinging the bat 30% of the time. Yeah. Well, since then, Jack, 259, 418, 472, 9 homers, 5 triples, 5 doubles, which is super weird. 51 hits, 52 walks, 62 Ks in that span. He's swinging a little bit more, now swinging 39% of the time, which is still nothing. And he's been awesome. I think this is a guy that just figured out, hey, I was being too passive. Now I can be patient.
To pour water on this, why is he striking out as often as he is? He's got 113 punch outs in just under 400 plate appearances.
I think he gets into too many deep counts.
Yeah, like the Julien situation where all of a sudden
he is Edouard Julien. Dude, he literally is. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. He is literally Edouard Julien. The difference is he has more raw power. And I'd have to pull off the Julien like contact rates. I think they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling, if this guy's a Julien with more power, you have to be.
Julien's an 870 OPS.
I will kick you off this show if you like. I will do it. I will do it alone for the rest of my life because you were the biggest Edouard Julien guy, and I will not allow it. I will not allow you to be anti-Emmanuel Rodriguez.
No, I like Julien because he speaks French and he's from Quebec. Like that's the only reason why I like him.
Like I'm pulling. Yeah, I'm accusing you of horrible things if you are out on Emmanuel Rodriguez and in on Edouard Julien.
Got you.
But no, like jokes aside, like they are almost clones. Holy crap.
Cool.
Zone contact, 79. Obviously, Julian's doing this at the big league level, but this is what we're hoping it turns into. 79%. That's exactly what Emmanuel Rodriguez is. Chase rate, 14%. That's exactly what Emmanuel Rodriguez is. 90th percentile exit velocity, 105. Emmanuel Rodriguez is 108. Difference is Julian's doing it at the big league level. The other side of it is Rodriguez lifts a little bit more, man. He hits the ball in the air a little bit more. And, I mean, he's got a higher ceiling. But I think it's really exciting to see that the Julien profile is working. And you were a guy that was as bought in on Edouard Julien as possible. And, you know, a big reason why we ranked him. I think we're the only ones that ranked him in the top 100 out of this year. And you were one of the catalysts of that. If I didn't rank him, I think you would have kicked me off the show. So it's like, it was one of those things where it's like people were skeptical of the profile. But there's a lot of iterations of this working. Max Muncy. Now we're seeing Julien. And here's the difference with Rodriguez. He can go get it in center.
Yeah, man. Like here's my thing on that profile. Like it's obviously there are some flaws and like the strikeouts are there, whatever, yada yada. They're never gonna be truly bad. Like they're never gonna be lost offensively. And how can you not respect a guy that will never be lost?
Yeah,
Edouard Julien can. You know, and it's different because like Schwarber just slugs, like the slug elevates the OPS. But how do you make money in arbitration? How do you make money in free agency? You do it via WAR. And I think Julien's turning into a serviceable defender at second base. Rodriguez, you said, can go get it in center field. Muncy has turned into a serviceable defensive third baseman. WAR and a WRC plus booster and an OPS booster. People get paid on OPS. These guys are OPS merchants.
Yeah.
They walk and they hit homers.
Dude, Max Muncy's hitting sub 200 over the last 2 years.
And he's got probably an 850 OPS in that stream.
And he's a 2-win player.
Yes,
like 2.5-win player.
Yes, man.
And if Rodriguez is doing this, like it'll be one of the weirdest profiles ever because you don't see it from center field. But like if Rodriguez is 193, 330, 470 with 30 pumps and good defense in center field,
you're so happy.
It's a frustrating player, but like
it's a valuable player.
It's a valuable one. And that's why, like, when I was said, like, if you're in on Edouard Julien, you got to be in on Emmanuel because Emmanuel can defend it. Both those guys that you mentioned, yes, they've gotten to a point where they're passable. But even if Rodriguez can't stick in center, he's a great corner. So that puts them in a really good spot. Yeah, I think you would have. Would you have punted me off the show if I didn't put Julien on the top 100 going into this year?
Probably, but you were on board too, so that was never even an idea.
I was very.
It's also your show, so I feel like I couldn't do that.
It's our show.
Thanks.
30. Now this is a guy. If you put your foot down, and this could have been the end of the show as well. This is a very controversial episode. Owen Casey. If I didn't have you in on Owen Casey, friendship might be evaluated at this point because
our friendship's already fractured.
Yeah, it's true. Owen Casey, dude. I can guarantee we're the high guys on Owen Casey at number 30, Chicago Cubs prospect. Talk about the chart. You got the X and Y axis, right? X is horizontal, right? Y is vertical.
Yes. Y axis vertical, X horizontal.
Okay. Jesus Christ. fast.
You got
Okay.
it.
So imagine that the y-axis is exit velocity, and then the x-axis is zone contact rate. There's going to be almost nobody in the entire minor leagues other than Junior Caminero that's going to be higher on the vertical portion on the y-axis. Then at that point, I'm looking, okay, how far over can you get from the top of the y-axis? Who's going to be the furthest over on the x-axis? And Junior Caminero is number one. Like he was pretty far over, which is crazy. And that shows you just why he's the number 2 prospect in baseball. But Owen Casey wasn't like straight up and hugging, the line that is the y-axis. Like there's enough zone contact there that has continued to get better. And for those who I may have just lost by getting way too into like graphs and whatever, like I'll just put it back into like layman's terms. 110 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity is among the best, not only in the minor leagues, it's among the best in the major leagues. It would put him in the top 10. Zone contact rate has improved as the season has gone on. And mind you, this is his age 20 season. Like I find it crazy that I have to campaign so hard for this guy. It's his age 20 season. He's a 6'4", 220-pound lefty out of Canada who had limited experience going into the draft and traded in that Yu Darvish deal. Since you take out the tacked ball from that league where he was already young for the league, K rate drops below 30%. Walk rate jumps to 15%. And he's hitting 314, 420, 568. He's 6'4", 220 with more room to add strength and already has one of the best exit velocities in the 90th percentile department in all of the minor leagues and the big leagues. His average exit velocity would be tied with Rafael Devers for 14th in the game. I think the whiff is going to continue to cut down too, Jack. This age 20 season in AA. Age 20 season with experimental baseballs. There's more strength. There's going to be improved field to hit. His chase rates are good. Like, what else do we need to see from this guy other than cutting down on the whiff, which he has progressively done?
Yeah, he is going to cut down on the whiff. I love that you said, let me put this in layman's terms, and still went to 90th percentile exit velo.
I thought about that as I said that. I was like, yeah, it's not really layman's terms.
Bro, you're so far gone. Here's layman's terms. He's 6'4", 220 and hits nukes.
I was sending you the XY axis. Like I was sending you the graphs on a Saturday night at 1 a.m. I think.
Touch grass, bro.
You didn't answer me, by the way, too, which was
I was sleeping.
No, you weren't. You were out being a human being, I guess.
No, man. I was sleeping.
But am I like Greg Huss came on and was like, how did you, he's like, I don't disagree with it, but how did you comfortably put yourself out there to the degree of putting Owen Casey this high? And I talked about the conversation that you and I had and how, like, you have told me in the past, like, kind of ignore the other rankings. Like, if you believe it, you believe it. Like, you have enough confidence in your ability to assess players. Like, if there's not 30 players you take over Owen Casey, then rank him 30. And I think that's where we're at here. Like, there's not 30 players that take over Owen Casey. Where are you? You don't have to be as high, but like, yeah. Where do you think he lies between, like, the industry has him barely in the top 100. We have him as a top 30 guy in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's closer to 30 because you never see this. And I thought that it was such a unique wrinkle, and it's so hard for me to assess. It was like alt site success in 2020. How do you assess success at the alt site? Like, Ryan Weathers is a guy that just got massacred for the Marlins. But this guy dominated the alt site and made his debut after spending pretty much the entire year at low A in 2019. So how does a guy go from low A to the big leagues? Garrett Crochet turned from a starting pitching prospect to a big league reliever, and now he's a reliever because alt site 2020 was weird. So I almost view the 2020 season and the tacked ball in the Southern League as these weird one-offs that we somehow have to assess. And the guy that I came away with the best feeling about was Owen Casey. I think the other one was probably Jefferson Carroll, who we're going to get to, spoiler alert, next episode.
Yeah.
But Casey is probably the other one because the fact that he could even come close to the production that he had last year with that tack ball as a 20-year-old in a level that he might not have been quote unquote ready for at the start of the season, I think told you all you got to know about that guy.
And I know you got to run to a broadcast in a minute. We got to get through a couple more players, and then we're going to do 25 to 11. And then the top 10, we're going to put a lot of time into, which I think is the right way to do it anyways.
Yeah.
The thing that blows my mind above all is what you just said. Everyone has Kevin Alcantara ahead of Owen Casey. Alcantara is doing less at the same age at a lower level. I know he's 6'6". Okay. Casey's 6'4". I know that he has a chance to play center. Okay. These guys have to hit to be good. And Casey is hitting better in AA. What would Kevin Alcantara be doing in AA right now? I don't know, but nothing close to this. So I'm all the way in on Owen Casey. And I'm not just saying it because I have all of his baseball cards, which, yeah, I have a bunch of them. But I'm telling you, this is a guy that he's going to become a very top prospect very soon. 29, Andy Rodriguez. I'll kind of give you the floor on this one, man. We had an awesome conversation with him, during All-Star Weekend. It has not been the year that maybe we expected after he was the hitting prospect of the year for just baseball back in 2022. But you know what, dude? I've been really encouraged with the big league stint so far. I'm sure you have too. And I know that you were not discouraged by the 94 WRC plus in AAA. The floor is yours, Jack.
I wasn't discouraged at all. And I think I've got a really unique opportunity to meet these guys and, get to know like the mentals. And, the thing that jumps out to me about Andy Rodriguez, like, okay, yeah, the numbers are, right around fine. It's a 98 OPS plus for Andy at the major league level. You mentioned 94 WRC plus at the AAA level. With Andy, like, I was impressed more than anything by the makeup and, pretty much second, the way that pitchers talked about him. Mm-hmm. Like, pitchers love Andy Rodriguez. And if I'm assessing a catching prospect who was the minor league hitter of the year in 2022, I want to know how pitchers feel about him. And the answer is so well. Like, okay, you think it's a fun PR stunt by the Pirates that he and Quinn Priester debuted on the same day? No. Guess what? That was a move to make Quinn Priester as comfortable as possible with a guy that was ready for a big league cameo.
Yeah.
Andy is going to be an insanely good catcher for an insanely long time. Yep. He's a switch hitter with plus bat to ball. And the thing that jumps out to me is like, this guy is mature beyond his years. And you met him, dude. He had no reason to link with us in the lobby of the fucking.
No, he's the man. I love Andy, man. We had him at 29 already, like before we met him. And I was like, I want to bump him up, man. This guy rocks. But we obviously can't do that.
Pushes himself. Like, here's my thing. Like, that dude pushes himself to do interviews in English when, like a lot of these guys are not comfortable with it. And I don't fault guys that don't do it, but think about what Julio Rodriguez, Julio became pretty much fluent when he was in high A double.
I had the opportunity to speak to him at the BBWA, whatever. It's just a bunch of letters where they give out all the awards for the MLB. Yeah. I was in the elevator with Julio. First of all, such a personable guy. His English is like almost impeccable at this point. And again, it's like, you don't have to speak English to be a good prospect, but it just shows like if you're a guy that is playing, and I mean, most of these guys, like there's downtime, they usually, go out or do something else or play video games or whatever. And I'm sure that everyone still does that. It's good to have the balance. But if you're taking some of your free time to learn English so that you can properly communicate with your teammates, that is an example of kind of who you are as a player and almost will always seep into other aspects of your game. Yes. And that's why it's no surprise that J-Rod has handled aggressive assignments. It's no surprise that Andy has handled aggressive assignments. And you'll see in a lot of Baseball America scouting write-ups and things like that, players made a large effort to learn English. Again, it's not a prerequisite to being a good player. If you struggle with learning languages, that's okay. Like it doesn't dock you.
I've been whiffing on Babbel for fucking 2 years.
Yeah, I suck at Spanish. But you know what? If I was playing ball, and I knew that could separate it for me, I'd like to think I'd do it. If not, I'm lazy. You should dock me. It's just the kind of the way it is. But he's been awesome in the big league level so far, like in terms of shaking off the slow start, continues to get better. And I've been impressed. The EVs have jumped this year, dude. So I think he's somebody that will continue to get better in the power department as he gets a better feel for hitting for power.
Yeah.
28, Kobe Mayo, guy we had on the show very recently. Go check out our interview with him. He is the freaking man too. Now we're in the this guy is the man portion of the list.
Yeah.
So advanced for a 21-year-old. I did get to see him pretty closely in this last series. I watched almost every single at bat against Jacksonville. A little Yankee, not New York Yankee, like a little bit of yank in his swing. And we talked about how, like, when he's right, he's looking to center field, right center field, all that good stuff. A little bit too much of that pull. But when you talk about how special this guy can be and how good he is for a 21-year-old man, I mean, it is a crazy amount of power that he already has at 6'5", 190, 200 pounds. He's worked on his swing with the Orioles through the offseason to make increased contact. He also talked about on the episode how he was hurt last year too. And nobody, again, he's like, I didn't really want to use it as an excuse, but I definitely wasn't feeling right. And now he's feeling right. Well, what does that look like? Age 21 season, a WRC plus a 177 in AA, 17 pumps, 15% walk rate, 25% K rate. The other thing that stands out to me is you have elite exit velocities, and at the same time, contact rates are slightly above average. Everyone talked about how he's probably going to move off third, Jack. He looks good at third. Like, I think he could stick there. Approach has been pretty solid. I think this is a guy that's going to be a top 10 prospect in baseball by the time he gets up, because he's going to be blocked a little bit, and he's going to start really mashing in AAA as he gets comfortable. 108 mile per hour, 90th percentile, 82% zone contact rate, 23% chase rate. What else you want to see?
Nothing. I'm going to ask you to play the if game. If Kobe Mayo spent the entire year in Bowie, was he going to be the minor league player of the year?
Yes, without a doubt.
Yes,
without a doubt. It would be him and Colt Keith duking it out.
Yeah,
and it would just be a slugfest.
When he spends the entire year in Norfolk next year, everybody's gonna be pounding the pavement, similar to Kuser. I think it's Kuser without the big league cameo next year.
100%. We'll do one more, and then we'll go 26 to 11 on the next episode, and then
two
10.
more.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want to make you late, dude. I'm always the asshole who makes you late.
No, man, we're good
for your day job. And
I know what Jordan Wicks does. Like,
yes, that is true.
Yeah.
This might be one of his last AAA starts, by the way.
We'll see.
But yeah, last thing on Mayo, howitzer of an arm at third base, which I think has really helped. There was a play specifically, like, my friend Griffin Conine texted me and goes, bro, I was doing some research on one of the arms before the Norfolk series. Go look at this Kobe Mayo play where he sits back on a ball deep and watch the throw he uncorks. And I was like, oh, let's go. And it was a chopper back. I tweeted it. It was a chopper back. He does almost like the Machado load up and just uncorks. Had to be a 90 plus across the diamond. And it was awesome.
I don't know if I ever sent you this video. Did I ever send you the video of, like, Mason Wynn? He stayed back on a ball at short, and I was like, okay, he's about to throw a ball 100. And he didn't. I got so screwed. You tried to have, like, the perfect call, right? Where it was like, watch Mason Wynn on cork one, and he just, like, flicked it across the diamond. I was like, what the hell, man? Like, he stayed back on a ball. I was pissed. In your defense, that would have been a sick call if it happened. Yeah, man. 27. Again, this is perfect, actually. This is a guy you just saw a ton of. And Brooks Lee is the definition of a player that you have to see for a week straight to appreciate how good he is. And I want you to just wear that. I want you to just soak that in and say, I now like Brooks Lee more because I watched him play baseball for a week instead of looking at the stats. Yes, I would immediately bump the field tool up 10 points right now. You've got 45-50. I think he's 55-60. Watching that dude play shortstop for a week, it's not, Mason Wynn's arm. It's not the range of, whoever. Like the gold standard of range is Jeter, even though I think we're learning that it wasn't the gold standard of range. I have no idea. But no, nothing metrically screams elite defensive shortstop about Brooks Lee. But watch this dude inhabit shortstop for a week, and you will say, this guy's smoother than anybody. It's incredible to watch this guy and watch how slowly the game moves for this guy. Yes, he had a couple of extra base hits. I think it's going to be a slight acclimation process to triple. I think it's going to be a slight acclimation process to the big leagues when he eventually gets there. But Dude, like the thing that I came away from that with was he's one of the more polished young shortstops I've ever seen calling minor league baseball.
I was going to say, I hate saying this about prospects, but there's like almost no chance he's bad. There's a chance he's average.
Bad. Especially defensively, there's no chance he's bad.
Well, and I just mean as like a player. Like if you're a good defensive shortstop who's a switch hitter who puts bat on ball, like there's no chance you're bad. Like
right.
If he's Kyle Farmer, that stinks. Like that's unfortunate.
But he's not. But again,
Kyle there's no Farmer. Chance. There's a lot of guys that we talked about, unfortunately, in the last couple episodes who will never even accumulate a positive WAR. Like there's several guys that we talked about that may never do that. That's the nature of the beast. Brooks Lee, I if you could say like pick a guy that has to accumulate more than 5 WAR in his career, or else you get sent to Guantanamo. Like I'm taking Brooks Lee's one of the names I'm taking if it's outside of the top 10, let's say. Like that's where I'm at. So beyond that though, dude, he's starting to tap into a little bit more juice, and I think the pull side power is underrated. He popped a 109 off of Levi Stout. He's popped a couple like 107s, 108s. The field to hit is phenomenal. I mean, it's plus contact rates. I think there's a chance for plus power. I don't like his right-handed swing as much. His left, if he was just a lefty, I think it's a plus hit tool. But with the righty swing still being in progress, it's 60 present, 70 future. But I mean, man, like this guy's just going to hit. And I think he's tapped into just enough juice, 103 mile per hour, 90th percentile. Like that'll play with what you get from him, Yeah. I think he's going to be an above average everyday shortstop. If you move him to third, he can play a really good third. And I think, he might not be your prototypical power guy there, but he's going to hit. If you move him to second, it's like Nico Horner type, maybe not the speed, but you're going to get elite defense and a ton of hitting.
Everything you liked about Bryce Terang coming into the year.
Yeah, this guy's way better.
Yeah, like it's elevated.
I'm a bum for the Bryce Terang take.
But no, man, like I agreed with you. I don't think Terang is going to suck. I think, yes.
I don't either. I don't either. Like people forget that like Bryce Terang, talk about prospect fatigue. He's 23. Also, I said I'd take a 3 WAR bet for him. He's at 0.6, but at least it's positive. 26, last but not least. Come on. This is a guy I know you're excited to talk about. Come on now. Cade Horton. I would say aside from Andrew Painter and Paul Skeens, who I can't wait to talk about, by the way, just got to see a really fun outing of him just working on change-ups like an asshole. Like, could you imagine some guy strikes you out and he's just working on things? Like, it's not even funny. His main pitch. He's just working on things and you punch out on – so annoying. Like, I felt bad for my buddy Mike on that one. Like he just worked on 4 changeups and set him down. But Cade Horton, man, he's working on a changeup and it's developed pretty nicely. And I think if that pitch comes together for him, it's game over. We've talked about Horton though. It's a mid 90s fastball that gets up to 99 with good life. Slider is disgusting. He's found a way to differentiate that curveball more, and that's been really good. And now he's using a bit of that like Vulcan grip changeup, and that's been there for him over his last 10 starts. And I know they're managing his innings. Last 10 starts, 68% strike rate across his entire arsenal, 31% chase rate on the fastball, 36% chase rate on the slider, 42% chase rate on the curveball, 39% chase rate on the changeup. Dude, how do you game plan for that? You have 4 different pitches that are good enough for you to expand the zone against, and then all 4 of which he lands for a strike 2/3 of the time or more. Not only will this guy, I think, be the best pitching prospect in baseball when Paul Skeens graduates, because, we got to wait for Painter to come back now. I think if Painter's healthy and Horton gets another year to develop, remember, he only threw 40 innings in college. That's it. This is his second year of really pitching, period. I think he could be in the Painter conversation in terms of just stuff. Obviously, Painter's got more upside. He's a huge dude, and
he's younger. And he's 2 years younger.
He's 2 years younger. But in terms of like tier 1, you can't separate those guys by tier. You could say 1A, 1B. But I think if we were tiering pitching prospects, you can't separate Horton from Painter, I think, very soon. I mean, almost maybe now.
I want to at some point, and this is probably an off-season thing when we're just bored to tears, I want to power rank Hoyer Hawkins W's. And I think the drafting of Cade Horton, and you got to credit scouting director Dan Kantrovitz with that too, but like this is one of the bigger W's in recent memory for the Chicago Cubs. I think the other is swapping Baez and Trevor Williams for Pete Crow Armstrong. But dude, like Horton is a massive, massive W because who saw this coming in the top 10? It was a surprise when he was drafted.
People were pissed.
People were pissed, but
Cubs fans were not happy.
We mentioned it when we talked Robbie Snelling. Like he and Snelling are kind of duking it out for pitcher of the year. Snelling has the innings bump on him, but Horton, I mean, it's 100 plus Ks and 20 walks.
Yeah, I mean, and with a feel for all of his pitches, and it just seems like he learns on the fly so well. It's a guy that the athleticism is just there. And by the way, Jackson Ferris, who they used the savings on to sign for $3 million, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he might be a top 100 pitching prospect or top 100 prospect by the time we get to the end of this year as well.
How about
so,
Nas
I mean,
Mule, man?
Yeah, well, that's another one. He's recovering from Tommy John, and Birdsell has been awesome. The Cubs front office deserves all the praise in the world, and that'll be an off-season episode where we can really talk about that. I'm really excited to cook on this show on the offseason. I think like that's where we really can get into some fun stuff, like the redrafts and all of that good stuff. But that'll do it. I'll let you get to your job. You kind of do that play-by-play thing. And hopefully you'll get, I don't know if you'll get Cade Horton before the end of this year, unfortunately, but I know you'll get Cade Horton next year, whether you're in AAA or the show. Wink, wink. Well, let's hope either way, because I would love to get your thoughts of Cade Horton. But we got top 25 next episode. It's 25 to 11, and then we'll get the top 10 to wrap up. As always, thank you for listening. I'll probably do an episode tomorrow, or if Jack is available, we'll see, on all of the promotions. Crazy promotions all over the league, even after we talked about the Padres guys. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Check out the link in the episode description for Alt, as well as this article. And I look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.